These stories prove revenge can be deliciously satisfying. Story 1, mock me? Fine, I'll waste your time. I've been a fan of revenge stories for a little while now, and finally have one of my own. It started 2 days ago when I received a call from somebody claiming to be from TELUS, a phone company. They can reduce my monthly bill by 40%, he claimed. This is a scam that's been happening, and I knew it was when he asked me what my monthly bill is. If you work for TELUS, you would know that. I told him, and he said I was right and hung up. About an hour later, same call, different guy. I told him to remove my number from the calling list, and he just goes, na, in a mocking tone before he hung up. That pissed me off. I was waiting for them to call again, but they didn't for the rest of the day. Yesterday, in the afternoon, my phone rings and it's them. I'm going to waste as much of their time as possible. Same spiel as last time. 40% off my monthly bill. What is it? I told them my last bill was $2.15. No, that's not right, he said. My bill needs to be at least $20 per month to apply. Okay, let me go back to the previous month. $42. I qualify for a free new iPhone too, if I'm a senior, so I tell him I'm very senior. What's my date of birth? August 17th, 1901. He questioned the year, but in more of a, do I have this correct way than you were born over 100 years ago way. I don't know how I managed to stay deadpan and not let out a giggle as that red flag went over his head. Let's see what else I can get away with. My email address? Yes, let me spell it for you. manmeetballdep@gmail.com. His accent was thick. The T's and P's sound the same, so I say it. Man meet ball deep. Man meet ball deep in your ass. That went flying right over his head, and he just comes back with, it says that's not a valid email. Well, your systems are wrong, I say. Then he asks me for my credit card number, so I read him the number off my Pepsi's barcode. Then he asks for my driver's license number. I don't have one, I'm too old to drive. So he asks for any kind of ID. I offer a student ID from 1955. He tells me to wait, I get put on hold, and transfers me to somebody else. The whole process starts again. Same questions, same replies. This second guy had 1 or 2 more brain cells than the first though. Because when I told him my email address and followed it up with the man meet ball deep in your ass, he goes, what did you say? I said man meet ball deep. After that, he asked, I said man meet ball deep is my name. He continues, but I knew I almost blew it. He gets my date of birth and asks if I'm really 125 years old. I say no. I'm 123 and I'll be 124 in August. He asked for my driver's license. No, don't drive. And he won't take a student ID. How about a passport? No to that. He asks for my address, so I gave him the address of the closest police station. Okay, now you want my credit card number? I read the barcode again to him. That's not right, he said. A Visa starts with 4. So I tell him the barcode again, starting with a 4. But that's only 13 numbers. I think you are wasting my time, sir. You're goddamn right I am. Story 2. Silence can be vengeance. I once worked as a therapist in a juvie for boys. Most think this would be a rough job because of the boys, but no, I loved those kids, I hated the people I worked with. None of the people working there, besides the therapists, thought therapy was valid and viewed us as a waste of time and space, even the people running the place. I made a sexual harassment complaint against a man working there, not knowing that he was related to the guy who ran the place. Of course, nothing happened to him, but I became public enemy number 1 after that. They were obviously trying to make things bad for me, but I persevered because it was COVID, and I needed to survive. Once things calmed down, I decided that it was time to leave. It was the end of June, and a lot of my boys would leave the program in July, so I told the head of therapists that I would leave at the end of July to get those kids out, give me time to train the remaining therapists on the kids who would still be there after I left, and it would give them time to find a new therapist. She was grateful and said it was kind of me to do this. This was on a Monday. On Friday, they called me into their office to tell me that they accepted my resignation that day, and I could leave. They seemed surprised when I accepted that with a smile. I realized then that I could easily get my vengeance by being silent. Since I was no longer an employee, I was not allowed back on the ground, so someone had already packed my things for me. They did not let me say goodbye to my boys, so they got what was coming to them. What they didn't know was that our IT guy was terrible at his job. He was supposed to create a file on each therapist's computer so that we could put our files there and all the therapists could have access. Problem is, he didn't do it correctly on my computer, and even though I told him this, he never fixed it. Due to this, I just saved everything on my computer, but they would need my password to have access to that. I never gave it to them. I met with some of the therapists who still worked there for lunch about a month later. They were happy that I was doing better than when I was working there. Apparently, the head of therapist had to take over most of my caseload and had quit. She had only been in the job about 3 months when she left, while I had lasted there for over 2 years. They had to rewrite a ton of my paperwork since they could not get access to my computer, which helped cause her frustration and final decision to leave. After how the other therapists saw how I was treated, most of them left soon after, and the only one to remain was terrible at her job. In their desperation to replace the therapist fast enough, they even rehired a therapist that had left previously, who was so bad at her job that she was deeply hated by every kid on her caseload. Funny thing about that therapist is that she was cruel to me, and I got my vengeance on her as well. Since her husband began flirting with me on Facebook, I let it go on for a bit and then sent her pictures of his messages to me. I don't know what happened after that, but I assume their marriage had some difficulties. It seems that the place never really recovered when it came to the therapy department, and the sad part is, that's where most of their funding came from. Funny how people put down those who they truly rely on. Story 3. I need ideas. I hate my next-door neighbor. She is a vile old woman who has vandalized both mine and my husband's car and has been harassing us with weird notes, follows us outside, and listens to us through the very thin walls of this place. I need to get back at her, for my fucking sanity. We've made so many police reports that have gone unanswered. We've begged management to remove her, but every time they see that she's a 70-something-year-old lady, they think I'm the one harassing her. It's baffling. I have never seen someone weaponize being a sweet old lady so effectively. Please God, any ideas would be appreciated. I am moving out very, very soon, and it will be FAAAR away from here, so I'd like an idea that can really fuck her shit up. She deserves it. Something so appalling that she might finally have a heart attack and fucking die. Thanks, y'all. Story 4. Upstairs neighbor has left us no choice but to move. Recently moved into an apartment which is on the 2nd floor. Shortly after moving in, we realized the neighbor above us on the 3rd floor, 60-yo heavyset male, is a complete asshole. He purposefully stomps around at night, literally haven't slept normally even one night since moving in. He purposely drags around his furniture all day, making it impossible for my GF to work from home peacefully. The stomping continues all throughout the night, not consistently, but literally every 15 to 30 minutes, there will be a giant bang that shakes our entire bedroom and wakes us up. It's been a terrible experience, and now, after realizing that management is on his side since he's lived there for 5 years, and it's basically impossible for us to capture the situation because he's home all day and so he can see if management is walking to our apartment to try and witness the noise. We're moving out on Tuesday, which is a giant relief. New apartment, and we're on the top floor, so no more sleeping issues. But I want revenge on this motherfucker. This move will cost us extra money and time, and this entire situation is not something we deserved. Any revenge recommendations? Greatly appreciated. Edit. Just wanted to add, since so many people are asking why I don't just record the noise. The leasing office won't accept recordings. They want us to call the off-site security when it is happening, so that they can come into our bedroom and witness it themselves. So basically, they're asking us to invite a stranger into our bedroom at 2 a.m. so they can third-party document the noise is a legit complaint. The worst part about this is, the 3 times now I've contacted the security, they never show up. Trust me when I say it feels like we exhausted all options, which is why now we are moving. Story 5. Revenge on childhood bully without even trying. Ooh! From 3 to 6th grade, I had this chick make my life a living hell. I'm not sure why, but she had it out for me and loved to manipulate our classmates into joining her mean crusade. I'll spare you the details, but she was relentless. FFW to high school, me and my bully are at different/rival high schools and never run into each other again. Good. One night, I'm out with my little band of freaks getting coffee at Lions/Denny's or wherever, when I meet this cute dude from the other high school. We start vibing hard, and he tells me that he's house-sitting for a friend, and that I should come over to hang out. Since it's the 80s and I'm stupid, I take him up on it. So I go over there, we start making out and such. Good times. After a while, I start looking around inside the house, and what do I see? Pictures of my childhood bully, from little kid up to present day. Turns out my makeout partner for the night was house-sitting for his girlfriend/my bully. Bahahaha, making out with my bully's boyfriend in her own damn house. The best part is that it wasn't premeditated. Karma just did its thing. Story 6. Ultimate revenge on my sister's cheating ex. My sister's husband cheated on her with a friend of hers. Then he screwed my sis out of their house and most of the money in the divorce. She was devastated, but eventually she moved on. Meanwhile, the ex married the mistress, who he'd gotten pregnant while still married to my sis. A few years later, my sis was cleaning up her email accounts when she noticed she still had ex's account on her computer. Out of curiosity, she logged in and saw that he'd received an automated email from Ashley Madison saying his account is now active. Remember that website? It's where married people connected to cheat on their spouses. She went on Ashley Madison, and sure enough, he had an account. Lesson: always change your email passwords after a divorce. LOL. When she told me, I had the most devious idea. I created a fake Ashley Madison account, pretending I was a very attractive married woman in his city who wanted to cheat. I sent him a wink, he bit, and we began talking, and then planning on getting together for sex. He got very graphic in what he wanted to do, and how his wife never wanted to put out. He also included a lot of detail about his life, his job, negative comments about his wife, stuff only he could know. I strung him along for weeks. We exchanged well over 100 messages. Finally, we made plans to get together at a motel near his house. Of course, nobody showed up, but I sent him a message late that night thanking him for the fantastic sex. Then I printed out the entire message exchange and sent it to his wife's office. She obviously bought it. He was livid and sent angry messages to my fake account, but I convinced him that my husband had somehow broken into my account, and that's who mailed it to her. He believed me. She left him, got the house and full custody of their kid and alimony. This was years ago, and he's never remarried, and still lives in a crappy apartment, and has no idea who did this to him. No regrets. In a vent above his bed. I, 22M, am a graduate school student, and I have a condo which I lease out to 3 other guys. We all have our own rooms and a shared kitchen and lounge. I have been close friends with 2 of the guys for years, and recently met the flatmate in question, who I'll call Ethan. I met Ethan in class, and he seemed like a nice and generally entertaining guy, so when he mentioned to me that he broke up with his girl that he'd been staying with and didn't really have a stable living situation, I said he could move into my free room as long as he pays rent. He agreed, and it was great for a couple months, but then I'd noticed there would be a lot more dirty dishes in the sink that wouldn't be done. For reference, I have a dishwasher, and there is a ubiquitous rule to do your own dishes. I'm not a neat freak or anything, but dishes in particular are a huge pet peeve for me. I noticed that for the most part, the dishes were Ethan's, so I brought it up to him once, and he said he would do better, but not much really changed. So one day I just unscrewed the vent above his head in his bed and put some dirty dishes up there, and kept doing so over a period of a couple weeks. Eventually he figured it out and got really pissed, because he's been using air fresheners and incense, and the smell still won't come out. He is a great guy otherwise, so I still want to be friends with him, but I just can't figure out how to get this man's dishes in the dishwasher. Story 8. Revenge for my sister. So here's the deal. My sister, 46, is dating this douchebag, 29, who she thought she was in a exclusive relationship with for the last 4 months, because, according to the 2 of them, they were. Here's the kicker, that SOB has been married for the last 3 years. Yep, we all just found out tonight. I would love to get back at that piece of OS. We obviously have his cell phone number, but what we would really like to do is get a hold of his wife's number and have my sister do the honors. Now they are no contact mutually, so getting it from him is not an option. We don't know anything about her since we all found out she exists as of tonight. We just need a way to figure out, how do we score that cell number? Ideas? Go! Update. The call was finally made to Marcella, Maxie's wife. There were no hysterical screams, no, you can't prove it. Remarks, no interrogations, just silence when she went into how they met, how long they dated, words that were said to one another, and finally all the places they went to. In the less than the 10 minutes they were on the phone, she texted the screenshots of the phone records and the 2 pics of the 2 of them. The only things Marcella said throughout the conversation were, "Who is this?" and "God." My sister told Marcella she can call her anytime and that she was sorry the whole thing happened. That was it. No name-calling or tears. I'm sure, though, she was in shock and disbelief. By now she's sideways in hurt and anger. Thanks for your support and ideas. Everyone involved received an education. Story 9. I got slapped, and I want revenge, but karma might have worked in my favor. So I grew up with lots of male cousins and family members. I grew up with them, and they are around my age. One of them has rich, entitled parents, my aunt and uncle, who let him get away with anything. He'd constantly pick on me, but when I'd say something back, I'd be the one to get in trouble. One day when we were little, he slapped me so hard that I was hyperventilating crying. I told my parents and he barely got in trouble. My mother was pissed. My aunt barely cared. Now he's a bum. No job, never finished college. He's a recluse. He never leaves the house, smokes cigarettes every day and drinks. His mother is depressed and disappointed in him. She desperately wants him to do something with his life, but he doesn't do anything. Here's the thing, I forgive him. I don't have a problem with him. I blame his parents. Specifically his mother / my aunt. As I get older, I realize how often she allowed him to pick on me and took his side. Story 18. Help me get revenge against my cheating husband, please. Need ideas on how to get back at my cheating husband. Ideally without anyone getting seriously injured or me doing anything very illegal. Just found out he's been cheating for over 2 years, and we now have a 1-year-old son. I feel like he just wasted 10 years of my life and now has me trapped in a lifelong commitment, and I'm pissed. He shouldn't get away with this with no punishment besides the obvious divorce. How would you get your revenge? He doesn't know that I know yet if that makes a difference in plotting TIA. Story 19. Revenge that took 15 years. So when I was 12 years old, my birth giver left my dad for a man who essayed me. Well, it's been 15 years. And a few days ago, the dude was put in the ICU unit, where I did some research and had someone show me a screenshot of my birth giver, saying that he had a popped brain aneurysm. Finally, after 15 years of abusing his wife and other people, and zaying me when I was younger, and couldn't do anything about it, he finally had a serious injury, and I will be the only person who didn't reach out to his family or visit him in the ICU unit. He will know that after 15 years I still haven't forgiven him. It took way too long for him to pay, but I'm glad something really bad finally happened to him. Story 20. Revenge on girl who flirted with my boyfriend behind my back whilst pretending to be my friend to my face. I know this is kinda petty, but it pisses me off so much. I dated a guy for a year before being abruptly dumped out of nowhere. Come to find out later, it was because of a female friend of his, who's been flirting with him secretly the entire relationship. I guess he got in his head that he would finally be able to bag her when he dumped. Turns out she was just flirting for attention, and he dumped me for no reason. I already got my revenge on my jackal's ex-boyfriend. I want revenge on the girl now because it hurts knowing that I was nice to this girl the entire time she was disrespecting me behind my back. Feels like a double betrayal. Emotional trauma on multiple fronts. She doesn't know that I know what happened between them. What should I do? Story 21. The corrupt cops face consequences. I'm a 37-year-old male, and this story takes place in the early 2000s in rural Australia. My friends and cousins decided to go on a camping trip for the night. There were 5 of us. My parents dropped us off at the edge of some bushland, and we started walking up a large hill. We often camp near some caves, but on this day we decided to venture deeper into the bush. It was summertime, and a relatively warm day. This will play a significant role in the story. After about an hour of hiking, we came across a beautiful pine forest with massive trees everywhere. It was perfect, so we decided to set up camp there. For the evening's entertainment, we had brought some green herbs. As usual, I decided to stash them somewhere nearby instead of keeping them on me. Call me paranoid, but I had learned from experience to hide things whenever possible. I asked my friend, let's call him B-Rad, to go for a walk and explore before we returned to make dinner. We had brought a small gas burner for cooking, since it was a fireban day due to the summer heat. Firebans are taken very seriously in rural areas. After about half an hour, we returned to camp and saw my older cousin, O-Dog, and the others gathered around a small fire. Immediately, I told them we shouldn't have a fire. It was dangerous and stupid. O-Dog, being the oldest at about 19, just laughed it off and told me to chill. I was 15 at the time, so he wasn't taking orders from me, but I had a very bad feeling about the fire. We were sitting around when suddenly we heard loud engines. 2 big 4-wheel drives, or pickup trucks for the Americans, pulled up. One of them had a large water tanker on the back. Before we could say anything, about 4 big men and a woman jumped out and aggressively approached us. O-Dog quickly said, "Sorry guys, we'll pack up and leave." But before he could finish, one of the men snapped, "Get on the ground, face down, and don't you won't look at me." O-Dog hesitated, confused, and just like that, one of the men punched him, dropping him instantly. Then they stomped on his head and back. I knew we were screwed. The rest of us immediately dropped to the ground. Each of us was kicked and stomped at least once. We were all bleeding and terrified. The men were screaming at us about the fire, and while I understood their anger, we were mostly kids, and these men were massive and obviously trained. They kept yelling, "Don't you look at me!" At one point, as I lay on the ground, the woman approached me and asked, "What were you thinking?" I muttered, "Sorry, but you can't do this to us." She smirked and said, "Well, I'm a cop, and I don't give a F about you." That sick feeling in my stomach got worse. They searched us and continued berating us. Then they called the police. While we waited, they kicked my friend again and kept screaming at us. When the police finally arrived, they looked at our bloody faces and asked what had happened. Despite everything, we all said, nothing happened. The police took our details and let us go. We went back home, and when my parents saw the state I was in, they were horrified. They immediately wanted to go to the police and press assault charges. I had never trusted the police, and this experience only reinforced my distrust. Plus, we had just found out that the people who attacked us were both police and military. I told my parents I didn't want to pursue it. I wasn't a snitch, but they insisted. Eventually, we went to the police station. When the officers heard what we wanted to do, their response was clear. No, we don't care, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. That's when it became obvious. These local cops were covering for their own. The attackers didn't work in the area, but the blue line was strong. So instead of going through them, we all wrote letters to the police ombudsman. In Australia, an ombudsman is an independent third party that investigates various industries, including law enforcement. After all, what good is it to have the police investigate themselves? We submitted our letters along with photos of our injuries. A few weeks later, we got the news. The lady cop and her husband, also a cop, lost their jobs. The local officers who refused to help us, one was fired and another was demoted. The military guys were disciplined as well. After that, the police who used to harass and search me constantly pretty much ignored me, and I was happy with that. Fast forward about 2 years. I walked into a video rental store, y'all remember Blockbuster? And saw the cop who had refused to help us working there. He looked broken and disheveled. My heart felt warm and euphoric. Knowing him by name, I smirked and said, "Oh, how the mighty have fallen." 22. Need help wasting a dodgy builder's time. Had this terrible experience with a builder a while back who ripped me off and generally behaved like a see you next Tuesday. I saw his van nearby recently and hatched the idea of getting my tiny little bit of revenge by submitting his phone number to annoying organizations like Scientology and penis enlargements. I avoid using good people/charities, thought about anonymously reporting him for something like tax fraud or employing illegal immigrants, but thought that might be too risky. Would love more ideas on a similar anonymous/not too illegal level. Story 23. I want revenge. Bank sell high risk fund to my father who was 84 that time. Lost lot of money. My father passed away 2 years ago when he was 87. When I managed his will and money, I discovered he bought some high-risk fund from bank and lost 1/3 of his savings. Today I found out the documents who was selling him that day. I found out the sales full name, phone number, and where she's working now. I want to report on TV to chase this story to warn more old people don't fall into the trap, but somehow any better ideas to revenge? I want that sale pay for the karma. I also discovered I have the sales number because I also have account on the same bank. She's leave and work somewhere else. Story 24. A guy left me stranded on a first date. I, 19F, went on a date with a guy, M19, for the first time. It was a beautiful day where we lived, so he took me to this nature park and we went on a walk. We talked about our lives, and I honestly thought it was going really well. After the walk, he said he needed to use the bathroom. I did too, so he drove to the nearest store where we could pee, which was a Best Buy. I went to the bathroom, and he did too. When I came out, I waited. I waited, and waited for him to come out. Finally, I got worried and I texted him. The message did not go through, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt and assumed his phone died. I then got tired of waiting and went to check to see if his car was still in the parking lot. Sure enough, it wasn't. I went back inside and asked the person at the front if they saw a man, gave his description, leave the store. They said they saw him run out of the store in a hurry a bit ago. So he left me, stranded, at a fucking Best Buy 20 minutes from my house. I Uber home and I'm pissed. So I decided to find his family member on social media and tell them what he did. I eventually found who I think to be his sister and told her the whole story. She ensured I would get my things back, as some were still in his car, and even offered to reimburse me for the Uber. Some may think I'm crazy, but when one goes low, I go lower. I got my things back, and they were clearly thrown in my yard out of his window. Someone was mad their family now knows what a POS they are. Edit. For those who care for an update. Surprise! There is none. He blocked me on everything, and I don't even want to talk to him again, nor do I care to hear his sorry excuse. And for those who are blaming me, GFY, I'm not leaving out any details. If I was, I probably would have just dropped the whole thing and forgotten about my things, because it's not like it was anything majorly important. But since he wanted to be a D, yeah, I am going to inconvenience you and make your behavior known. I was nice, attentive, and respectful the whole date. I looked like my photos, I dressed nicely and had good hygiene. And regardless of any of that, the only excuse to just ditching someone at a store in the middle of a date is if they are being verbally or physically abusive. Other than that, I should have at least received a ride home. No other excuses would really suffice. If you offer to take me out, take me home too. Period. Story 25. My roommate stole my debit card and bought things on the internet. So my roommate stole my debit card and used it to order things from Temu. I know this because I saw Temu on my transactions on my banking app, and I have never ordered from them, so I made a charge dispute. I thought I had been hacked or something. I would have never suspected my roommate because we're cool and I consider him a friend. My bank then sent me the order info from Temu, and the order was shipped directly to my apartment. I also saw the order was for airplane models, which my roommate is a collector of. He's currently away on spring break, so I checked his room, and everything from the Temu order was there. I already filed a police report, but I am very certain they aren't going to do anything because he only stole $160. I'm not even mad about the money, it's the fact that a person I liked and considered a friend would betray me. After I passed the hardest exam I've ever taken, I smoked weed with this dude and watched The Matrix with him, and he committed theft against me not even 2 weeks later. My other roommate is stressing me out because I want him out, but that's gonna raise our rent $400 each, and now I am second-guessing myself. I want to just beat the shit out of him, but then he could press assault charges. Whatever happens, whether he continues to live with us or not, I want to show him I'm not to be fucked with. Any advice? Story 26. Uncle got just rewards. When I was growing up, me and many of my male cousins were forced to help my grandfather on his farm. Most of his children left as soon as they could, either military or by getting married. My uncle Wally was only 8 years older than me and was the last kid on the farm. He was lazy and a liar, so Grandpa needed us kids to bale hay, feed the cows, etc. But Wally would lay in wait until Grandpa was gone and then waylay you and do terrible shit to you. I'm talking groping to full-on rape. He's a pervert. It got so bad we would have to do our chores using the buddy system. All the cousins were 8 to 12 years old. Eventually, my grandparents sold the farm and moved into town when I was about 14. We all told adults about this, by the way. I was told not to lie, and actually had to apologize to Wally for saying bad things about him. My 2 cousins that had it the worst just learned how to run fast and have eyes in the back of their head. Many years pass, I go into the army, my cousins do their own thing. But the thing is, we all got bigger, much bigger than my uncle. But we never forgot. Wally's life is a train wreck, jail, homelessness, HIV, etc. But he thinks all is forgotten, and that we wouldn't remember what he did to us. We were having a reunion at a park where most of my cousins came. It was right after my grandpa died, and Wally shows up. So me and some of my cousins discuss how we are going to fuck him up really good this time. One of my cousins that actually was never molested by Wally lures him down to the river, where we are waiting. He plays like he's not scared, but I think he knew there was a beating coming. So he takes off and starts screaming like a girl, and we were on him. My one cousin is whipping him with a belt buckle pretty good, and Wally runs into the river. This isn't a little stream, it's the Mississippi. We tell him the only way to go to avoid a real beatdown is to swim. My mother shows up and is screaming at us to let him out, but we all held firm. My one cousin told my mother they should have believed us back then, but since they didn't, he is going to die. Surprisingly, he made it across, fully clothed and all. No one ever mentions that episode either. Lots of secrets in that family. And shame. Edit. The river is about 100 yards wide in Anoka, MN, and not particularly fast-moving. Google it. Story 27. How do I take revenge? There is this person, he was gossiping about my friends and destroying their stuff, so I didn't want to be their friend anymore. He got really mad at me and my other friend. Like I found my stuff ruined, it was probably him. So I asked him and he got all defensive and said I was accusing him. Yesterday he pulled my hair, kicked me and pushed me. The second time he pushed me, I got mad, so I pushed back and we fought. I won, by the way. The classroom was dirty, and I helped clean it. Then he asked me if I was a slave. He also told me to go back to my home country. I won't go to much details, but he said a lot of mean stuff to me and my friend, so we represented and we clocked his ass. He chased my friend on Friday home and jumped her. I was there, so I helped her fight him if she won anyways. And that same day they fought again. My friend won again and dragged him. He called us blacks, monkeys, hyperpigmentation, ugly, elephants, etc. We responded by calling him bad words back, I'm gonna be honest. He also threatened my friend by saying I'm gonna take you after school. He never got to. He also said that he wished he was the person that ruined my stuff. He put my other friend's belonging in the trash and got rewarded for finding it. He told everyone my crush, and that was a crush nobody knows, so it's not a big deal. But he knows a lot of stuff about me. So what do I do when I know it? That he likes many boys in my grade, talks to AI boys like Freaky Way, and humps his teddy. He spreads a lot of rumors about me and my friend too. His parents get called every day, but nothing has changed. I want to call the police, but I don't want CPS to take him. How do I take revenge secretly? Story 28. My neighbors murdered my cat. I want revenge. A day ago, my beautiful soulmate cat was found dead in front of our door, with clear signs of poisoning. We live in a community with a shared garden. Each of us have our own little part, and there is also a shared one. Unfortunately, our cats often escaped, but couldn't climb over the fence, were sterilized, and weren't into hunting, so it was okay. Most of our community loved them. Many of them have cats on their own as well. Unfortunately, one of our neighbors started to become hostile towards the cats, was threatening us, and tried to poison them numerous times, without an evidence other than the vet diagnosis. But they survived, and we tried to protect them by keeping them inside. But 2 days ago, one of my cats escaped again, and 2 hours later was found dead. The poison was brutal, and the neighbor obviously lured him there with food. We later found a plastic meat box in their side of the garden, but since it was raining, it was very hard to use as an evidence, although with their previous behavior and how they act now, it's pretty obvious. We are going to press charges, because in our country what they did is a crime, but it's really hard to prove these claims. We said our goodbyes to him and took him to analysis, so we have proof. This was the hardest day of our lives. My siblings are still traumatized. My little sister has not spoken a word ever since then. I know that revenge won't bring my baby back, but I want them to remember every day what they did. They killed an innocent little life. I'm looking for non-personal, non-invasive ways to let them know I know, and to let the community know what kind of monsters are we sharing fences with. I want to avoid harassment/defamation/vandalism charges until the police investigation against them is not concluded. I want to let them know. I'll remind them every day of their disgusting lives, of what they have done. Humans are the most disgusting animals. Let me know if you have any ideas of how I could legally torment them. P.S. I am interested in suggestions other than calling the police. I'll press charges, of course, but I want to torment them in different ways. Story 29. The Ultimate Revenge. Outliving a high school bully. Okay, long story. When I, 32F, was in high school, I made friends with someone who I thought was kind, but turned out to be a giant high school bully towards me and my then best friend. Day in and day out, she would spread conspiracy theories, disrespect our boundaries, be a homophobic POS, lie to us constantly, spout right-wing propaganda, spread rumors about us, mock us behind our backs, etc. Worst of all, she could do terrible things to me and other girls, such as flip the bird in front of me or call me names and get away with it, and then just lie her way into the pants of other girls' boyfriends. Even during graduation, she physically sat down on another student who was tiny compared to her. And she wasn't even that attractive or rich. She was dirt poor and plus-sized, which for the 2000s and early 2010s was an instant social flush. When I was in college, she even sent some of the most terrible messages to me after I entered as a freshman, and it showed how awful she was. But during college, I was finally healing, and as the years went on, I forgot about her. But then came the pandemic, and even worse, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Then came that horrible day on May 1st when my mother passed away from it. So I was crying in my bed, and my heart sank. I couldn't eat or sleep properly at all. But just 2 days after my mother died, she had the nerve to DM me and say, "I'm sorry, I did nothing wrong. I wasn't a bully to you." At that very moment, my pupils were dilated from anger, and I just started crashing out. I called her every single swear word in the book when she said that. Right then and there, I knew if she was in my room right at that moment, I would have committed a felony for saying that to me. So she blocked me after I crashed out, and I was happy she did so. But being the chronically online person I am, as soon as I got my vaccines and everyone was free again, I discovered that she was unhoused and had cancer at the same time. I just laughed upon knowing this news and knew I won. But then comes more recently when I found out that she died, and it was the ultimate victory for me, outliving her. She didn't even see her 30th birthday. It's the ultimate revenge on a high school bully in my book. Story 30. Kinda revenge. Thank God I finally found a job, and they even provided workers' housing. So I packed my things and went to meet my roommate, who was also my work partner. Things were fine at first, but after 3 weeks, tension started building between us. Eventually, he told me that he just needed to endure my presence a little longer, until his old roommate returned from vacation. Once that happened, the company would move me to another residence, since the room originally belonged to his old roommate. I had no problem with that, but he kept bringing it up repeatedly, almost like he resented me. When his roommate finally returned, I packed my stuff and moved to another company residence. It was only for a day, and I was completely fine with it. But then, out of nowhere, our boss called me and said, "You're going back to the first residence." I just shrugged and went along with it. Now, back at the first residence, my roommate and his friend were visibly shocked and in complete denial as they packed up his friend's things. My roommate kept accidentally calling my phone, with me standing beside him, probably out of frustration. The funniest part? He kept complaining about that moment for months. Story 31. How can I F him up? There's this kid in my class named Demarion. He was going around telling people I'm ugly. However, okay, I'm not even exaggerating. I wish I was. But if he took one of those person-to-animal filters, it would be a naked mole rat. Not even joking. He looks like a naked mole rat with a wig of dreads you could probably find at Party City or Goodwill. Okay, so here was my plan. My school has a page called Almost Friday, and it's basically a page of making fun of people. Let's be real. We've all made at least one appearance. And I had two ideas. One, put a picture of a naked mole rat and him next to each other and lay them around the school where there are no cameras. O.R. Upload the photo to Almost Friday. I know it's mean, but I don't care, he started it. Story 32. Revenge advice. I'm 16M, and 6 months ago I had gotten jumped by 5 17-year-olds for apparently looking at them wrong. Now you may ask, why have I waited so long until I get revenge? 1. I wanted them to lower their guard and somewhat forget about the scenario so I can catch them unexpectedly. 2. I've been training in my Muay Thai gym to be able to take any of them in a fight. I've been able to organize a crew that could possibly aid me in my mission of revenge. The only problem is we are not very organized, and I'm still working on preparation. I've tracked down the schools of all 5, and I've been able to note their reinforcements. Though they can easily call their boys and outnumber us, I am not afraid in carrying out the job. How should I go about getting revenge? Story 33. My abusive ex owes me $500 and court doesn't seem like enough. I, 23F, dated a guy, 24 meters, for 6 months. I'd been single for quite some time after a hard 3 years relationship, and finally decided to be serious to someone again. Enter this guy. A little backstory. My lease was coming to an end at AB 2 months in. It'd been there for 3 years and hated it, but was apt to extend my lease anyway as it was affordable. So he winds up suggesting I move in. At the time he was in an apartment W his best friend, plus the friend's baby mama, who he hated. I was starting a new job, the roommates got jealous, and wanted us to pay more than half the bills. I was fine. My ex insisted he wanted to take care of me, and when we lived together I would pay nothing. I insisted, but he was adamant and wound up leaving the apartment as the whole dispute got messy. We move in together a month later and things are immediately bad. ID never lived up just someone and figured, all I've been through in this life, how bad could it go? I found out. He picked an insanely expensive apartment, ignoring me, warning him this was a bad idea the whole way through. He assured me he'd have the $1,800 every month, as that's only half his income, and he found that reasonable. I had started my new job and was now making more than him, so I had to sign as well, as we needed my income to qualify. I am not here to be chastised for being dumb, I already know I was. Things quickly went from bad to abusive. He headbutted me twice, had slapped me on a few occasions, repeatedly tried to force himself on me and would scream at me for days for refusing sex, called me every name in the book, threw things, you name it. He even once tried to force himself on me while I was drunk, gagging and having a panic attack. He used our 6 weeks free up immediately, and once it was time to actually pay, he was coming up short. The first time was just $200 and some change. I figured, that's fine. The following month I asked on the 31st if he'd paid, he said yes. The next morning, he calls begging for $580 after he left for work. I was super upset, as he knew I'd worked extra hard to make exactly an extra $500 that check and insisted he pay me back. He agreed. The next week he said we should go half, and tried to gaslight me saying he never agreed to pay the entire rent. I agreed on the condition he starts paying for his own groceries, as he'd run through them insanely fast. I go half for 2 months. He never takes up his half of the groceries. Eventually, I'd had enough of it all. I had to break up him 4 times. He told me he couldn't do living together, and if I left him the apartment, he would let it hit my credit. Mind you, I spent our 6 months together furnishing the entire apartment. I paid for every bit of groceries, furniture, gas, Wi-Fi, everything. Everything in the apartment was mine. He wouldn't have been left even a chair. So obviously he was the one who ended up moving out. He drew the breakup out for 2 months. Our initial agreement was he'd continue to pay his half for 3 months, then I'd take care of it all. That quickly fell apart. He'd call incessantly, show up outside the apartment, flipping between cussing me out and insisting we be friendly. If I didn't play along, he'd suddenly not have his half on the first, so every first of the month, he would throw a fit saying I am, just after his money, and block me. I'd have to make text now numbers to get a hold of him, then have to wait another 2 weeks for the rent to be paid in full. This went on for 2 months. It got to the point where I decided I was done playing nice in hopes he would do right by our arrangement. So I told him he owes me the $500 he was short on his last half of the rent that month, as well as the $500 he's owed me for 6 months, then I am done. He refuses to pay initially but flips back and forth over the course of a month. At this point I realize I can take him to small claims. He's still calling incessantly, so on one call, I say, I can just take you to court, right? I have you agreeing to pay in writing. If I take you to court, I will get my money. I am trying to be nice. He insists his mother, whose couch is currently on, who asked him for money every single day we were together, is telling him he should NT pay and that I have no case. I let him know months ago his mother was hiding a foreclosure from him, so I mentioned that, saying I wouldn't trust her knowledge of the courts. Her hands are also in his pockets. She'd asked for things from weed money to having him help her buy a car. He's always given money to any of his friends or his mom when they ask, no matter how stupid, no matter how late it made him on his half of the rent. So obviously all his people are encouraging him not pay as they feel he owes me nothing. Insert weeks of berating messages and me being blocked repeatedly. I end up sending a Cash App request for the $500. He declines and starts sending me requests, added notes to the tune of, "You ruined my life." He said this all the time, even though our breakup was entirely his fault and he had actually put me in a compromising financial situation. He feels I ruined his life, BC. He had to go back to his mother's. His car had been repoed during our relationship, after months of him claiming his half of the rent was late due to him paying his car note. Since he'd moved out, had also been jumped by someone. Never said why, but I am sure he owed them too, as allegations of owing money seem to follow him often. So I am not sure where his money was going, or why he wouldn't just pay me back while he has no bills. We argued Abdi that often while together, and I never got a straight answer. I send a request for $54 saying, this is how little it costs to open a court case for my money. He then unblocks me and says he'll pay when he has it. I tell him I need a date or I am filing suit. He ends up paying the first $500, saying he'll get the rest in 2 weeks when he gets paid again. Of course I don't get the $500. He calls me several times trying to argue down the amount. I go on listing things he's broken, ruined, or just straight up never paid for that I haven't even included in the total. If you want to nitpick, so will I in court, so he agrees to pay out of his tax refund the following week. Now here we are, a month later, I've been blocked again and still haven't gotten my money. So last week I drafted a final demand of payment letter and stuck it to his mama's door, and emailed a copy for good measure, fully expecting a series of scathing texts, like always. But nothing. No messages to make an arrangement. Nothing at all. So here I am a day away from filing, and I just don't feel like a lawsuit is enough. To be honest, I want revenge. I've thought of texting his boss all the unruly things he does on the clock. I've thought of texting his friends he talks shit, Abd. I've thought of texting the guys that jumped him 2 months ago. I've thought of telling his mom's apartments he's smoking weed in there, but I don't want his mom and sisters on the streets. At this point, I don't know what to do, BC. Nothing feels like enough. I don't get angry often, but I am really angry. I basically raised him for months. I really feel like I should draft another letter demanding he pay the half to vacate the lease as well, but that just draws this out longer. Do I do that? Do I call other people he owes and plan some coup? I don't even know what would satisfy me at this point. Regardless, revenge will be had. I just hope it's over soon. I'll keep y'all updated.